Again, when American Vice President Vance suggested to Keir Starmer when he visited Washington that free speech in Britain was under threat, there was a firm denial. Let us look today at one aspect of free speech, the right to pray to the Lord. We read in the Bible that the reason that Daniel ended up in the lion's den was that he prayed by the open window of his house, for which action he was promptly arrested. The book of Daniel, chapter 6, verse 10, reads as follows. He went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber towards Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God. How shocking that some tyrant would order a man arrested for no other reason than that he was praying in his own home, so near a window that people in the street could see him. Thank goodness that we in Britain enjoy freedom of religion and nothing of that kind is likely to happen to us. Except, of course, that is exactly what is going to happen. In a speech at the Munich Security Conference on February the 14th, Vice President J.D. Vance suggested that people living within 200 metres of abortion clinics in Scotland might be arrested for praying as a result of the Safe Access Zones Scotland Act, which came into force last September. He said, "This last October, just a few months ago, the Scottish Government began distributing letters to citizens whose houses lay within so-called safe access zones, warning them that even private prayer within their own homes may amount to breaking the law." Of course, Vance was immediately accused of spreading disinformation, scaremongering, and trying to provoke illegal protests outside clinics in Scotland. The general impression given was that Vance had dreamed this idea up out of thin air, possibly motivated by the fact that he is a practicing Catholic who is strongly opposed to abortion. It now appears that he was perfectly correct in what he said, at least according to Scottish Member of Parliament Gillian Mackay, the politician who drew up the Scottish Buffer Zones law, which forbids influence within 200 metres of an abortion clinic. When asked specifically if somebody praying at the window of their home with clasped hands or kneeling down would be breaking the law, she said, "Well, that depends on who's passing by the window." She went on to explain that, "I don't know anyone who can pray loudly or performatively enough to be seen outside their own house." Clearly, Miss Mackay has never read the Bible or heard about Daniel in the lion's den. The background to all this is, of course, the protests which have taken place in recent years outside abortion clinics in this country. These have been carried out with the express intention of making women change their minds about having an abortion. Originally, laws were brought in to prevent such demonstrations from taking place, so that women would not feel intimidated, upset, or harassed. Many people would find a law of this kind quite reasonable, but there has inevitably been what is sometimes known as mission creep. Once the protesters were removed, it was observed that some individuals still remained near the clinics simply praying. This too was felt to be menacing, and so the law was extended to prohibit praying within a certain distance of abortion clinics. This led to the most grotesque prosecutions imaginable. But how do we know if somebody is praying if they are simply walking along the street silently? Who knows what they are thinking, or whether they are attempting to communicate with the deity? Take the case of Isabel Vaughan Spruce. On December the 6th, 2022, Isabel Vaughan Spruce, a devout Catholic, was arrested outside an abortion clinic in Birmingham. Although she had said nothing and was carrying no placards or anything else, the police suspected her of violating a public spaces protection order. The purpose of such an order is to prevent antisocial behaviour and can specify an area where activities are taking place that are, or are likely to be, detrimental to the local community's quality of life and can impose conditions or restrictions on people using that area. Isabel Vaughan Spruce was 46 at the time of her arrest. The police saw her near an abortion clinic, which was incidentally closed at the time, and asked her if she had been praying. She admitted that she might have been praying in her head, that is to say, thinking about God, because she often communed with the deity in that way. After her arrest, she was charged with 4 counts of violating the Public Spaces Protection Order by praying. Fortunately, she was later acquitted of all the charges. This then is the current state of Britain. Prayer, which was once thought to be a praiseworthy and virtuous activity, is now viewed with the gravest suspicion by the authorities. Woe betide anyone who wishes to communicate with the deity at the wrong time, or in what the law regards as an inappropriate place. Isabel Vaughan Spruce fell foul of the police merely for thinking about God in public. Now, those who wish to emulate Daniel by praying in their own homes in such a way that they might be visible to passers-by are also at hazard of being arrested. Even those who do not believe in God must surely view such a situation with some misgivings and ask themselves whatever the authorities will next take it into their heads to declare a crime. As usual, in the description to this video I give links to news items about the matters of which I have spoken.